Kevin, the Bangkok Adonis. The client I worked for has a small research and development center in Thailand. For this assignment, I tended to fly in every couple weeks and stay for a few days to help the staff out with specific problems they encountered while I was away, and helping them with regulatory requirements they need to implement. The development center is a small group of people and a mix of young local Thai and expats from mostly Europe and Asia. The expats enjoyed the nightlife in Bangkok a lot, and on occasion I would join them. I've seen all the nightlife, go-go bars and strip clubs, and been in all the right and wrong sois, alleys with a good crowd, good times. Men being men, from time to time some of them ended up with a girl in their rooms and a couple of thousand baht less in their wallet a few hours later. But all the expats understood that while you can have a good time with a girl like that, you should stay level-headed and understand you are just paying for a fantasy. It's not a maintainable lifestyle. Pay your bills, stay safe, don't cause trouble, and have your moment of happiness and move on. They understood. Kevin did not. Kevin was a new expat in the team, coming from the main branch, and managed to get his way into the Bangkok office because he was having his midlife crisis. Older fellow in mid-40s, but looking closer to late 50s. He didn't seem to be too bright or thinking about things much. His work was mediocre at best, and his personality was best described as boring. Though he tried to be one of the cool old guys. Emphasis on tried. Not to be exclusionary, they invited him to go out with them on a Friday night. I happened to be in Bangkok as well, and as his introduction to the nightlife, they decided to hit up the places of vice, lust, and greed. Mr. Boring loved every moment of it, a little too much if you asked me, and it would be the start of a wild time in his life with progressively worse decisions. The problem is that putting someone like Kevin in an environment like this is they start to feel invincible and empowered by their newfound attention by girls half their age, attractive or not, and his decision-making, already bordering on bad, took a turn for the worse. He was like a kid in the candy shop. While hesitant at first, he ended the night in the early hours of the morning, going home with a girl that had a look on her face saying, "Better than nothing, I guess." I felt for her. He came in on Monday morning clearly hungover and exhausted. Apparently, he had caught the bug and spent Saturday and Sunday nights in the same districts and sleeping with another few girls. Well, he had his fun. Nobody at the office cared too much and left him alone. Rite of passage, they called it. Welcome to Bangkok. When the next Friday came around, they wanted to go out again with the boys, but to the usual clubs they went to, avoiding the worst of the lust, vice, and greed the city offers, and just have some fun between themselves. Kevin became agitated like a little kid and kept pestering them to go to new places he hasn't been yet. It is creepy seeing an older man be a predatory man-child. Eventually, some of them relented and took him to some other places he hadn't been yet. I left on Sunday, but from the chat I had with one of the guys, I heard he came in late, hungover, and exhausted again on Monday. The chat died down after that. I was busy with many other assignments and forgot about it. He was boring after all. And someone sleeping with ladies of the evening isn't exactly exciting material. When I came back 6 weeks later, I got a big update. Apparently, Kevin had kept up this behavior, and while his work didn't suffer too much, cause it wasn't very good to begin with, some people were starting to get concerned enough about him a few weeks in. One seasoned expat that had seen it all, and two of the Thai guys took him apart to talk to him about having to slow down, and the cautionary tales of people that had done the same as him. He said he would quit in the end, and it seemed to work for a while, but things were about to get a whole lot worse. While he stopped going with them on Friday and Saturday nights, he seemed to go at it alone for most of the week. He knew where to go, and nobody tells him what to do. The girls loved him and understood him, even when they did not speak English besides the little fragments they picked up and quoting the price for drinks and fun. He decided to continue, and the guys decided they warned him enough and he was old enough to make his own decisions, no matter how poor they are. They would just listen to him complain and laugh it off between them and wait until his year abroad was finished. By the time I got back a few weeks later, a lot had happened. One of the girls he met told him she wanted out of the business, and he ended up offering her a non-existent job as an office manager at the company. He has no rights to offer anybody anything. for a salary that was even more ridiculous. Surprisingly enough, she had showed up on Monday morning at the office to start her new job, confusing everybody there. Eventually, they got her to go home. At some point in the conversation, it became clear that Kevin was not using protection with his girls unless they were bothersome about it. He never had an STD test done, thought they were for gays only, and genuinely thought protection was for pregnancy only, and that the only STD that existed was HIV/AIDS. He got worried after he was told that's not how it is, and when he had the test done and found to have chlamydia, he made sure everyone at the office knew he had it. He was going to die and wish he knew about this earlier. Nobody wished to know he had chlamydia. At some point, he learned about in-call massages and gave our business address for a girl that did massages. He did not see anything wrong with getting a massage with a happy end at work. He was surprised the Thai guys looked at him as if he lost his mind. This is normal in their culture, right? Right? Needless to say, the girl and Kevin were sent away that day. He had become regular enough to be recognized by most of the girls in the bars. And if they can get a regular guy for steady income, they will play the game and cry crocodile tears about cheating on her when he is seen with other girls. He was very susceptible to this, and every other week he would be at work clearly concerned about this fake drama and which girl he should choose over the other one, and tell it to everyone who didn't want to hear. He kept telling everyone he loved Thai food. Thai sushi is so nice. Turns out, he has mostly been in the Japanese restaurants around this area. Bangkok has a sizable Japanese population, hence the restaurants. When they eventually took him to a Thai local restaurant, he boasted he could do the spicy. He obviously couldn't. He spent the entire night telling everyone how spicy it was, at least the moments he was able to talk. Though he was warned, he thought looking like a big spender would make him more attractive for the right ladies. He got popular enough for sure. At the end of the night, the guy was 15,000 baht, $425 lighter, and had to replace all his cards, including ID. Not having learned his lesson the first time, he got his wallet stolen another 2 times in 4 weeks' time, racking up 50,000 baht in damages, $1,400, before he finally learned his lesson. He was told he would need a re-entry stamp from immigration to keep his visa valid if he was going abroad, which he did on a weekend trip. He was reminded by the other expats, company documentation, and it is stamped in his passport, and he still managed to not do it, causing his visa to be invalidated. But as he was allowed a tourist visa, they still let him in. By the time he found out, he had been overstaying for weeks and ended up having to hire a visa lawyer to get things sorted out. That's how he made a 900 baht, $25 stamp, and a couple hours of his time into tens of thousands of baht in fees and fines for immigration. You would think that by the time I came back to Bangkok, he would have got bored of it and straightened his life out. But not Kevin. Things only got worse for him. So by the time I came back, they told me the story. He had wandered into a ladyboy bar. Honest mistake. It's hard to see sometimes. Some don't specify. Some are mixed, and well, when you're drunk, it all blends in together anyway. The guys he was with didn't mind, and didn't tell him anything to mess with him. No, what they didn't know was that Kevin was a bit of a bigot about this. Eventually he found out when he was already down a sizable amount of money, and Mr. Boring became Mr. Angry, who refused to pay for his and the lady drinks. Lady drinks are the high-priced drinks you have to pay for each girl sitting next to you, around every 10 minutes, shouting every trans slur he could think of, and most there did not understand, luckily. Eventually he paid and left, mostly because the club called in their security, and Kevin was in no state or shape to do anything to them. Or so we thought. Before he would leave, he reached out to hit the ladyboy he had trouble with, though it was more of a weak slap. But to her credit, that ladyboy could pull a punch still, and gave him a nice bruise on his face. After that incident, he was surprisingly silent around the office. I guess it hurt his masculinity and ego. Maybe that was all he needed to bring himself back to reality. I left without further incident and wouldn't be back for another 6 months because the project I worked on with them wrapped up and the new one would not require me until 6 months in. When I came back, Kevin wasn't there anymore. asking what happened to this Adonis of the Bangkok nightlife, I got the rest of the story. Apparently, he had found love in one of the bars, a girl called Tree, they told me, obviously not her real name. Quit his job in the days after, which invalidates his visa, and he definitely knew after last time, and eloped with the girl. Nobody had heard from him in months until he sent one of the expat guys a message on Instagram telling him Thailand was a terrible country. He had been fined and deported based on the fact that he had no valid visa and wished he never came to Thailand, that he never met all the women cause all they wanted was his money. Tree had left him as soon as the money had run out. Yeah, Kevin, they warned you. You know, I'm really surprised the company they worked for didn't have any kind of a policy around this. Like when Kevin brought the masseuse into the workplace, shouldn't Kevin have been fired for that? He knew exactly what he was doing. It also sounds like his coworkers had been through something like this before and had seen people like Kevin go through there before and run into the same problems that Kevin had. So I think there should have been something in place where maybe Kevin got sent back home when the higher-ups of the company realized that he was in over his head. I can already see the comments on this one saying it's not the company's responsibility, and I get that. I know some companies just don't care, but the really good ones, well, they really do care about their people and will do things like this to keep them employed and honestly keep them out of trouble while trying in earnest not to drag the name of the company through the mud in that country. On to our next story. My ex-work colleague was a Kevin. Let's jump right in. So for approximately 2 months, I worked with this guy, and at the time it was frustrating, but now all I can do is laugh and be amazed at how this person has gotten through life. Little background of my work: I work at a warehouse for cheese, not with the cheese. Involves a lot of heavy lifting, moving pallets around and finding products, and writing down numbers before sending them out upon request. So on to this Kevin. For over a month, he thought that the giant reels of plastic and rolls of labels were cheese. They literally have a cardboard tube in the middle of them and don't get refrigerated. In addition to that, he used to help me unwind some of them every day. He would pick up heavy products like over 15 kilograms and struggle to do a full 360-degree turn before putting it down in a new spot. When it was brought to his attention by health and safety, he didn't understand and would drop everything unless he did the 360 spin. They literally had to walk him around and start with the lightest products and build up to teach him how to lift things safely. In my job, we use pallet trucks to push pallets around. The pallets we use are not square, they are rectangle, and the way we lay out at our warehouse means that pallets need to be a certain way around to fit in the bays next to other pallets. If you try to push them in from the side, they are too wide to fit. After 6 weeks of explaining this every day to Kevin, it finally broke him. He had a full-scale anger rage at trying to get a pallet in a gap. He was shouting, pushing it, and getting super angry. I walked over and told him he needed to turn it around. He got super angry at me and told me it was the right way around and that I was trying to get him to do an impossible task. I got pissed off too, took over, turned it around, and got it in first try. He would break multiple pallets a day by incorrectly using the pallet truck. If you push the pallet truck fully into the side of the pallet and lift it, you will snap the pallet. When I confronted him about it, he would deny it was him. Apart from me, he was the only person working in that room, and they were not broken in the time I got them from the lorry and put them on the bay with the forklift. Another time he got angry trying to push a pallet through a doorway and accused me of not helping him when the pallet was super heavy. He was pushing it into the door frame. In my job, we use walkie-talkie style radios. Pretty simple, press the button, talk, release the button. After 6 weeks, Kevin still could not work out you need to hold the button to talk. So we often have some pre-picked items sat ready to go when needed. There was a time when someone requested a product and Kevin sent it out. Well, he sent the wrong product. He then proceeded to argue with the person that he sent the right product down because he had written so on the paperwork. I then sent more of the product because sometimes they need more and maybe everyone was just getting confused. That happens often too. I then walk to the pre-picked area and find the stack of products Kevin had sent. My boss then gets involved and told him that he needs to find out what product he had sent because it's important for legal reasons. So usually when this sort of accident happens, we can go and check the areas where the products are kept, and it's pretty easy to work it out because they are not using it. But Kevin decides the way he will figure it out is by reading over the list of products on the sheet for 10 plus minutes and then go and look at the unpicked stock in the storage room. Yeah, he never did work that out, and it was another time I went to the rescue. We have to often stack products onto trolleys with 4 rotating wheels and no handles, then wrap them up in cling film. It's not a difficult job, and even though I explained to him that you need to stack them 4x7, he didn't listen and stacked them 6x12, but not once. My boss found out, told him to redo it, and even showed him how to do it. Kevin then restacks all of the product onto another trolley, but stacks it completely the same 6x12. When I saw, unknowing that my boss had already told him, I came to him to explain to him he needed to restack it because it was dangerous and not what I asked. He got really angry at me and said it was right and he didn't understand. So I did it with him. The next day, he goes and restacks them again at 6x12. Like I said, we also have to cling wrap these trolleys, and as I said, they have rotating wheels. So normally when you wrap them, you have to use something to keep the wheels from moving so the trolley doesn't move. Kevin was trying to pallet wrap the trolley without blocking the wheels. I watched him walk in a circle with the trolley moving over 5 times without realizing it wasn't wrapping and getting annoyed. Honestly, the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life. He was on the road to being fired, but he ended up quitting. However, he was telling everyone he got fired. He should be fine. He is signed up with over 9 agencies who can't seem to give him jobs he can keep. Yikes. I do hope the best for him. He seemed like a nice guy. But honestly, I have never in my life met anyone like this person. OP added an update onto the story. It says, another thing I missed to include that came to my mind, we have these guides which explain which numbers need to be recorded. For example, lot number, batch codes. It is basically photos of old labels with circled information. I gave these to Kevin and explained to him they are guides. When an item was requested, he started copying the numbers straight from the guides instead of the numbers on the labels. When I tried to educate him about it, he did not understand what he was doing wrong and accused me of telling him to write numbers from the guide down. Even when I stood there and pointed at the example guide and the different number on the product labels, he did not understand. So I had to take the guides away and hide them. These guides are written simple enough for non-English people to understand them. Okay, I guess in this case Kevin wasn't a gamer because most gamers know about push-to-talk, and that's the exact same concept on a walkie-talkie. I truly feel like Kevin in this type of environment is a danger to everybody that works around him, because if he forgets something really important from a health and safety standard, somebody's absolutely going to get hurt, especially when you're moving around pallets with pallet jacks and stacking things and using a wrapper, etc, etc.